Hello from the Yarn Closet in Southern Arizona. I am Laura, and I live in Southern Arizona. I'm legally blind. Come on, Mitzi. This is Mitzi. She's really cute when she puts her ears up. We just got back from a little walk we did this morning. We walked around the property for about a mile. And once again, it's Saturday morning, and I'm in my jammies and my sleep sweater. I remember listening to Kay Jones over at Bakery Bears talking when she was making the pinguono that maybe it would be her sleep sweater. And I was like, wait, what? And she talked about sleeping in some of the sweaters that she didn't really like for wearing, especially the cardigans. And yes, this is an acrylic, chunky. I don't know if I have a band. It's one of those acrylic chunkies, you know the ones. The big balls. And this is a crocheted cardigan I made. Poof sleeves. You know, it went really fast. It was really easy. I just loved making it. And to be honest, it's quite warm. It's just, you know, acrylic pills so badly. And when it's the chunky stuff, like even worse. I do have different depilling options. I just opt not to because most of the time, I had it at school for a while, but then my daughter bought me a sweater almost identical to this for Christmas, but like professionally made. So it's much thinner. It's made with a bolse or boucle. And it pills also and kind of sheds. So I brought that to school and I brought this one home. It's lovely. We're very damp this morning. It's supposed to be 70 today. And then, you know, it was 40 on Monday. This next Monday, it's supposed to be like 78. That's the most annoying thing about Arizona. I mean, that's just crazy. Crazy. I found out that the reason this face framing bit isn't like curling well when I try with my curling hairdryer, why it doesn't really curl well is because it's too chunky. But I don't like how thin the ends look as it is. So I'm not thinning them up any more than that. When I tuck it behind my ears, it looks basically the way it did before I got the stinking haircut, except it's much thinner here. It doesn't feel the same. I'm legally blind. It doesn't feel the same. My life is about how things feel and the big blur around me. And that's hard to talk about because if y'all really knew how some of the legally blind people function, how some of the elderly people function. So my reading vision, my amount of correction in here is comparable to like an 85-year-old, 90-year-old. When I stop and think about the fact that my dad's 87 and how bad his vision is, and that's just the natural progression. Nobody talks about that. And the elderly people that I've talked to about it years past, they say, get out of there. The reason they don't talk about how bad it becomes is because they already feel like so much of their life's been taken away from them. Their independence, their driving, whatever. They don't want there to be more of a perception of weakness and therefore have more things taken away. And I totally get that. Totally get it. Something in your fur. Lovely thing is, we did do a little bit longer walk this morning because there were no javelinas and no coyotes. Now I could hear the coyotes next door, but we were pretty good. We had a lot of birds. It feels very spring-like today. And it might be cold again after next week. I don't know. Or we might be starting spring early. That wouldn't surprise me. We did have a dusting of snow. I don't think I posted any pictures. I did post in the community thread a short of a blanket I just gave away to a friend. One of the ones I made with my 9 cluster granny squares. So when there's 9 clusters, it's 9 clusters across here, but it's also 9 rows of clusters. And because they're square. And 3, 4. I could do with some more stretching these days. 5, 8. So I have 8 of these in a goofy arrangement of colors. And I think I may try to make a few more to make another 15 square blanket. Or I may grab a mishmash out of my 6 clusters and try to make a blanket from that. I'm being pretty monogamous this school year and the start of 2025. I made that yellow sweater that you saw, and then I couldn't find the band on here, and I've been looking it up, and I couldn't find the color, because I think this is actually a Lion brand Pound of Love, where I also have Big Twists. And I think this is actually a Lion brand. So I'm gonna look up Lion brand today. But I think that it'll actually manage to make me a short sleeve sweater, because in the Lion brand, how many yards are there? There's 1,020 yards. And I believe the yellow sweater that I made, I used just under 1,000 yards. So this one is going to be slightly bigger. So there's some yarn chicken involved here. I may end up having to make it shorter, which I think I'm okay with, to get the sizing that I want. Because I'm realizing as a menopausal, postmenopausal woman, even though I am thicker here than I was when I was younger, it's still okay to have stuff cut me off at my waist, because it still is. And so this is the Very Pink Knits tutorial on a Lion brand free cropped sweater pattern. It's just a little raglan. You knit flat. I knit them really fast because I knit the ribbing on a 4.5 needle, and then the body on this one is in a 6.5 needle. I was quite surprised. I thought that wasn't going to work with the acrylic yarn, but it is absolutely working just fine. I will probably stop soon and put my ribbing on here, if I can manage to get that center pull to come out. And then the body on the other one, after blocking, measured 20 inches. I think it was 22 when I was still knitting it. So I'm definitely going to go for an 18 to 20 inch length. I did this one basically the same. I started with a smaller count at my neckline than is recommended because I'm narrower in the shoulders, and I've realized that that's the trick. That's absolutely the trick, because when I start with the proper ones, see why I can't stand this haircut? Because I wanted blunt. And now I got all these layers, so it feels like I got all this weight here and then just some long stuff here. We are going to be so lucky that I don't, because I am so tempted to do one of these and just pull it all forward and feel for that, where that weight hits, and then feel feel all that thin, straggly stuff, and just chop it. Like I might do that today. My husband will never notice. He'll never notice. But see, there's a definite little bit. I think I could do that. I might do that. So basically going for the haircut was completely pointless. I should have just cut it myself and left it. So maybe if I just continued to keep cutting it myself and not going in. I gave my son the option of going into his favorite local lady or me cutting his hair, and he had me do it this morning. He has naturally curly hair, so it's quite forgiving. He doesn't go out a lot. He's 6'4", and as long as it's over his ears and tight across the line back there, or at least not scraggly, it's quite forgiving because of the curl, and it's quite flat and lays quite flat back here, so I leave that longer. It's very heavy right here. He's got the thinning points happening, you know, kind of like Mom, and his dad has it too pretty bad. So the hardest thing is to cut here and to get it to look decent because it doesn't, because it's pulling back here. So he always has a chunk of something going on here with his curls, and he doesn't really like finger free them. But he's handsome. I think he's handsome. He's my kid, and he's nice. And I think the fact that he's clean and he's smiling, he's nice and he's kind is what actually makes us attractive. That's what I believe. So the reason I like this pattern is I like knitting flat. It works up really fast. I will have another sweater in under a month, and I really like, do you see what I'm doing here? I can never remember what y'all can see. I can't remember. I'm backwards knitting the rows. My purl row, I never purl my purl rows, I backwards knit them. Which means when I do a raglan sweater flat, if I backwards knit my purl row, I will always get holes along my raglan increases. Whereas if I do a raglan in the round, I never do the holes then. I always knit it so that the hole is filled. But that's how that goes. I do not like cutting knitting. I have cut and steeked a number of sweaters, and I have reinforced them with crochet. I have reinforced them with ribbons, sewing, hand sewing and ribbons. And I just don't like it. And maybe it's because, and I've done it in sticky yarns, like woolly wools, and I've done it in acrylics. Acrylics are so slippery that you really do have to reinforce well. And the sticky wools were fine. And I did some hand felting of the steek area, and that worked pretty well. But there's a bulk to it that I'm not a super fan of. And I've knit a few thinner sweaters. Like I did a 2-strand 2.75 millimeter, 3 millimeter sweater in some hand-dyed stuff that was just absolutely lovely. Some speckled yarns. Years ago, a green sweater, and I gifted it to some sisters. Because it just, I was in that perimenopause. Things were shifting too fast. It fit me for a minute, and then it was like, I'm not gonna love this, and like, will I ever again? Because I was in that place where I wasn't believing the people I was hearing who were postmenopausal, saying that some of us lose weight postmenopause. Some women in postmenopause continue to have their perimenopause symptoms. Some of them do not. I have been lucky enough to shed some weight, and I think that is because of genetics, but I also think it's because of things I've done. Like, instead of taking a bunch of stuff out of my diet, I just added a bunch of stuff in. Like, I added in a bunch of walking. I added in a bunch of protein, and in doing so, other things have naturally fallen away. And I find that a much easier way to have consistency in change is to do small changes consistently over time. And the trick for me is adding things in, because then I'm not focused on what I'm not getting. I'm focused on what I'm getting, the add-on, and the other stuff just falls away naturally. I still eat chocolate most days, but I don't eat as much sweets as I used to. I don't eat as much sugar as I used to. And I eat much cleaner foods, which has been helpful. But I really love a backwards knit instead of a purl row on a flat knit. I do. It always makes me think that, like, why am I not a thrower? Because this is like a backwards throw. It's like a left-handed throw. But I am a continental knitter. I'm getting really close because I'm going to show you a thing. I'm going to try it on for you. I was in a really cheerful mood this week, which was lovely. It was very strenuous at work. I'm a volunteer librarian at my school and substitute librarian at my school district. And I found out that my tax person retired, which bums me out. So, terribly bummed about that. But she was through H&R Block, and there is like an online option. So I'm looking into that. I'm just not going to stress about it. I've chosen not to stress about it. I'm waiting till I have all my documents, and then I'm going to see if I live in a very small town, like 5,000 people, small. And so I'm not going to a tax person in my town. I will go into Vail or into Tucson, and I'm just going to pick a different office and make an appointment there or go in there. And then, or I'm going to do it online if that pans out to be a thing, and I will let you know. Okay, here we go. Oofta, 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 oofta. The kids at school are like, that sweater cannot fit you. And I'm like, yeah, it will fit me. It's just on very short needles, but it's all bunched up. So see that once we get, this measures just about 1.5 inches. So once we get an extra 3 inches, I mean, it will absolutely cover here, and it will cover more on me than the yellow one. Because when I say I'm knitting it bigger, I'm not knitting it longer. I knit this measurement longer. So right now what's holding tight is my cords. This will be a much looser arm fit than on the yellow one. And because I'm going to have about 3 inches, it will overlap a little bit at the top. And it will be easier to have maybe a couple of frog clips instead of buttons on the button band to hold it closed. It's not, because it's not, the other one was Maritime Family Fiber, a very, once it was blocked, it was much softer, but a lovely warmer woolly thing, because when we get 20-degree overnights for weeks on end, and we get snow and we get cold, we do have weeks of that. And then we have other times that we need a little sweater with the air conditioning. I think this one will be something I will grab for more. And I think I'm over trying new things. I'm just going to make things that I know how to make, that I know what the end result will be, and that I will like. Because that is the best use of my energies for the best outcome. And so yeah, so I think that I will be able to make this one skein work. And I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about Valentine's Day this year. I have some gifts for the kids. Gonna get the husband some boots. We're gonna make time to go out and do that. I'm getting a frothing pitcher. I can't wait to try that. I can't wait to try that with my daughter's hot chocolate that she likes. And then my son's birthday is the day after Valentine's. So that's the thing I have to put on my list. I gotta remember to buy something when I'm in Tucson on Monday. We're going in on Monday to see my dad, do some groceries, and the big thing will be next week whether or not I went in for the chomp and did it myself. The thing that I don't like in the way that she cut it with all these layers, and like, I don't know. I mean, she did this thing where she just did this, which I thought is kind of normal, and then she did this little twist and boop, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't want that, I wanted blunt. But she's like, well, now I have. I'm like, geez Louise. So, the thing that makes it difficult now, and I know this from experience, is if I try to pull this forward and trim off the stuff that's really the longest and the thinnest, if it's kind of pulled forward and flat, I can kind of do it. It gets choppy, which is the reason I went into her, because I had done this before up to about here, and then she chopped me up here with all these layers, I don't know. I think I might be just better off at just kind of waiting. And I think I'm getting better at waiting. I think I am. I don't like the big foreheadiness. That's why I like a bit of a bob thing going on, because it can give me some oomph around my face where things have thinned out as I've aged. And I find it just easy. So we'll see how it progresses this year. We'll see what I can manage. What are you going to manage this year? Do you have any big exciting plans for Valentine's Day? That week at school is our Dr. Seuss week. And we have people from the community, like the mayor and city council and stuff, that come in and read Dr. Seuss books to kids. And also we're going to the kidney doctor that week. My dad's very excited because his numbers aren't changing very much, so that's good. He finally got through that stitches removal on his big face squamous cell carcinoma that he had to have a very large graft. So he ended up having a big chunk taken out here right before his ear. And then he had like 3 legs, and then the big graft in the middle. So this side of his face is definitely facelifted. But the stitches are out, and so he's feeling really good about that. And we're just gonna go from there and move on about stuff. That's all I know. That's all I got for this week. But I enjoy spending time with you, and I appreciate the likes and the new subscribers and all the new followers over on Patreon. You can join Patreon for free and follow for free. If you want to be a subscriber on Patreon and a supporter financially, do it on your laptop or in your browser on your phone, because if you do it through the app on an Apple product, on an iProduct, 30% of what you promise, will go to Apple right off the top. So the money you think you're giving to the people on Patreon, they don't get it. 30% off the top goes to them at Apple, and then you get your fees deducted, and then you get whatever. So $5, $1.50 is going to go to Apple, maybe another 50 cents out of a $5 deal. You're maybe going to see just under $3 of it. Something to that amount. Don't quote me on the exact math. I'm too old. I don't care about exact math. That's why I get someone to do my taxes. They're not that complicated. There's not that much going in and going out. I just don't want to have to deal with it anymore. So don't quote me, but you can look it up and find out, and just an FYI. Have a lovely day, and I've enjoyed chatting. Thank you for letting me be here as myself in my stretched out jammies after my walk around my property without my lipstick and just as I am. I appreciate that about our friendship corner here. Look with your heart first, not your eyes.